The glyph system in Naraka has been updated yet again, and many players don't know which talents to pick. This video will teach you the logic behind glyph choices and help you find a good build for any character, game mode, or playstyle. The first thing we should set up is your general glyph page. You use this as a starting point on most characters, and whenever you're not going for anything special. You scale the first green energy node and work your way through grappling distance all the way to scale cooldown reduction in the bottom. Energy lets you dodge by pressing shift more often, which increases your mobility and survivability. Grappling distance is great for catching enemies and running away. And skill cooldown lets you use your F skill more often, which can come in clutch in many fights. We don't care about grappling speed that much because it is not that strong, but we have to pick it up to unlock the big ones. You want to pick up the first red rage per second node and spec into everything rage per damage dealt. This allows you to use your ultimate ability more often, which is really powerful. This only leaves one point. You can put this last point either into the final red node at the top or the first blue node at the bottom. The red one gives you 20% damage reduction for 10 seconds after pressing your ultimate, and then it does nothing for a full minute. If you use your ultimate somewhat early into the fight and then keep fighting with it, it is a good option. The first blue talent gives you 1000 luck, which is meant to give you better drops from green and gold troves. Simply Marco tested it by opening 600 gold troves and found that you get around 25% more gold loot. He thinks the final red glyph is usually better, and you can definitely take that unless you have a good reason to skip it. But you cannot go wrong with the first blue either, especially since some characters barely take any damage after using their ultimate. This completes your general glyph page. This glyph page is going to be optimal for most characters in solos and also for some in trios, and you can always go back to it whenever you don't know what else to take. Certain characters, game modes, strategies, and playstyles provide reasons to set up additional talent pages. First, let us talk about some characters that are a special case and should not use the general glyph page in any game mode. Tarka needs all the energy he can get to do the punches in his ult, cancel attacks, and dodge. He sacrifices grappling distance to spec into the bottom side of the green tree. Kurumi's F3 is very strong, so she needs the final green skill cooldown talent. She can choose between the offense-oriented top green path for grappling distance or the defense-oriented bottom green path for extra energy and wave roll to increase her survivability even while she is tethered. She doesn't need red glyphs because her circle is inexpensive in rage cost and she rarely ults at the beginning of a fight. That's why Kurumi often goes for green and blue talents, as shown here. Sheol and Valda don't need the final red glyph because they are virtually unkillable in their ultimate. If your general glyph page has that, make sure to take something else on them. Even if you just switch out the final red for the first blue, that is going to be better. I used to think the same about Wu Chen, but the last red glyph can actually come in handy if he teleports in the final circle with many enemies alive. Wu Chen can skip skill cooldown though, since some Wu Chen players like to keep the final blade of their F as a passive to negate a lethal strike and survive on 1 HP. He can invest the points he saves into extra red or blue. There are more characters who can benefit from another build depending on the game mode and strategy. But before we talk about them in more detail, we have to understand some of the remaining talents better. Blue glyphs help you scale because they make it easier to obtain rare loot, soul jades, bag upgrades, moonbanes, and revive charms from rift dealers. This is especially useful in trios because shop discount is shared and stackable with your teammates. When skilling blue talents, I recommend following a specific order. After the first one, you take 3 coins on the upper path and unlock Carved Jade. This gives you a guaranteed purple or gold jade upon completing a quest once per game. In Immortal War, an epic soul jade lucky pouch costs an expensive 8k Darktide coins. In Ranked, you cannot even buy these. You have to buy pouches with a high chance of getting a blue jade. You'd have to roll a ridiculous amount of soul jades until shop discount saves you 8k coins. Carved Jade is very cost efficient, so it is the highest prio for anyone skilling blue talents. The next best glyphs are the luck and shop discount and the pure discount on the bottom tree. The final blue glyph is not very good because in most cases it regenerates less or far less than 1 bar of armor, and it only does that once per minute, so it is entirely skippable. The left path of the red glyphs contains rage per damage taken and initial rage nodes. They can be useful on particularly rage-hungry characters. We will take a look at some examples later. The first purple glyph only gives you 10% damage reduction when you are in blue, purple, or gold focus. According to testing by Simply Marco, it only applies to the first hit, and it doesn't apply to attacks that break your focus state. So it is not very good, but you have to take it to unlock other purple nodes. Based on what Chinese pro players are playing, the top purple path seems to be much better than the bottom one. The idea is that you explode an enemy fast with offensive abilities, and then you keep fighting with extra damage reduction, a lowered skill cooldown for you and your teammates, and the Siphon lifesteal effect. This can fuel an aggressive playstyle, and you can speedrun entire teams and trios. The bottom path seems cosmetic in comparison. You'd have to hit a triple parry to restore 1 bar of armor, and this whole dodging before executing is somewhat gimmicky. Now let us talk about the characters who can play the general glyph page, but may want to use other builds depending on the game mode and strategy. Tianhai and Zhuishan heal their blood when they transform, so they don't need extra energy to survive in team games. In trios, they commonly go for a red and blue build as shown here. This build also works on some other characters in trios, such as Temouk, Takeda, Yodo, and Akos. There are higher rage variants, which are also very viable. In trios, Matari tends to use V1 after her teammates use their Fs, and V2 when she wants to finish wounded enemies. That's why she can arguably skill less rage and go for a build that's mostly blue, with some green and a splash of red. You've seen another green and blue hybrid build already when we talked about Kurumi. Some characters can benefit a lot from running a rage-heavy red and green hybrid build in trios. Examples include Tessa, Hadi, Liam, Justina, and Yodo. These characters have cheap or cancelable ults and good survivability from their Fs. With a build like this one, they can use their ultimate multiple times in pretty much every fight. Zai gets an F refresh when she ults, and her F3 is a high damage ability. She is sometimes even paired with the V1 Matari in trios for an extra F refresh. Hence, Zai doesn't need the green skill cooldown glyph. However, Zai is quite stationary when she ults, and she can easily take a lot of damage. That's why Zai benefits a lot from the top purple path, which makes her more tanky and supports her in her executions. Viper, if she plays F3-V3, is similar to Zai, but I recommend taking the first green energy and grappling distance because she moves more while she ults. Since her V3 is cheap in rage cost, she doesn't have to skill as much red rage as other characters. If Viper plays F2 and either V1 or V2, it makes sense to spec into the bottom green wave roll. This can increase her effective range while she ults, and with it the chance to stun someone. V1 and V2 are more expensive than V3, so she needs more rage and cannot spec into purple. As a quick interim summary, we've set up a general glyph page that is optimal on many characters in solos and even on some characters in trios. There is a first group of special characters that should never play the general glyph page. And there is a second group of special characters that can play it, but in some cases it makes more sense to play different talents, especially in trios. If I did not name a particular character you had in mind when watching this video, there are only two explanations. One, it is not a special character, so you can just play the general glyph page on it, and two, it didn't exist yet at the time of making this video. What's special about this latest glyph update is that we see a lot of Chinese pro players play vastly different builds. There is no single known build dominating the meta, so the challenge lies in finding a build that matches your playstyle, strategy, and character. I hope I could help you find the glyph build you like. Please check the pinned comment. It includes information if this video is still up to date, as well as links to other videos I made on the same topic. It is interesting to observe how the Naraka team is changing the glyphs over time, and looking at the past can also help you understand how the game may change in the future. Make sure to hit subscribe to not miss out on future updates, and please leave a thumbs up. Many thanks and see you next time.